Thank you.
Hi, my name's Ann Dembinski. I'm the president of CUPE Local 79. We are the largest City of Toronto local. Largest local.
I apologize. Let me start over. Okay.
So we have over 20,000 members in Local 79. So our members work in parks, shelter and housing, public health, recreation, buildings, long-term care, child care, planning, social services, just to name a few. So I wanted to say that we heard at the budget launch on Monday, November 28th, that it was stated that the mayor and the budget committee should be commended on their courage. I'd like to say how courageous it is to close 3 City of Toronto shelters, including one that provides a home for older men, 2 that provide shelter to men and women struggling with substance abuse. One of the shelters, the one at Birchmount, is close to where I live. I have friends that live right adjacent to it. Never a problem with these seniors. Never. There's never been a problem, unlike perhaps a shelter near my neighborhood, but it's never been a problem. To downgrade childcare centers in shelters, don't you think that the infants and toddlers who wind up in a shelter need childcare from professionals? To shut down the hardship fund and the Santa Claus fund, to close childcare centers when there's 20,000 Toronto children on a waiting list for a space, to reduce positions of frontline workers providing care and long-term care, to stop home visits by public health nurses to postpartum mothers at risk, to eliminate priority recreation centers that provide programs for children and seniors. We have, and now I understand we're discussing charging those who can least afford it user fees. For some families and children, $2 to swim, to skate means they're never going to be able to do it. How fair is that? In a city that's supposed to care. To cancel the breakfast program, that's really fair. When some poor child goes to school hungry, that is really fair. These cuts are only a small example of the deep devastation that is being proposed. The city's most vulnerable people will suffer the most if council does not step in and stop a budget that guts the services and programs that all Torontonians rely on. Let me remind you what Mayor Ford said before the last municipal election. Torontonians were promised no cuts to services guaranteed. Torontonians were also promised no layoffs. And I know my members believed him, and I will say some of them, and they will admit they did vote for him. Now we're being told that 2,338 positions will be eliminated, and city employees will be indeed laid off, the bulk of the layoffs in Local 79. Each of these employees represents a vital public service that Torontonians will no longer be able to rely on. What happened to the promise of no cuts to services? Thank you.
Thank you. Any outside councillors? Councillor Madden.
The question I was asking Mr. Hahn, and I know that you don't like the question either. I've inferred that from you before. But do you not see any merit in the argument that it might be not the members of your union who do a great job for us, but the leadership, like yourself, who ironically may have helped elect Mr. Ford in the first place?
I didn't.
Perhaps not with your vote, madam.
I may have helped.
Excuse me. Perhaps not with your vote, madam, but negotiation after negotiation after negotiation. At a time when the economy was going downhill, there were people struggling out there in our city, and the vast majority of people would see some union leadership, not all, but some union leadership ask for more and more and more every round of negotiations. There was a level of angst that rose to a point that didn't actually put your own leadership into positive repute. your unions in general, and perhaps even, garnered the angst that elected Mr. Ford in the first place. Do you not see anything in that argument? I expect not.
Well, Councillor, perhaps, and I know you like to question me, and your typical question, thank you for not answering it because I won't discuss bargaining in public with you, but I will ask you as a councillor, what have you donated back to the city? And it's easy for you to say, and many of you to sit around here saying you can afford to donate large chunks of your salaries to charitable causes. My members cannot.
But when an average resident who, let's say, is running a variety store and doesn't know if they're going to be able to keep it open, they pay personal and commercial property tax, and then they see in the public sector such a difference between what they are able to count on that year, or even knowing if they're going to keep their jobs, and those who get surety with jobs for life or anything else. Do you not see why some people would go, you know what, there's an unfairness, there's something unreasonable about this. We want everyone in the public and private sector to have fair wages and fair benefits, but there's an inequity that actually contradicts the very virtues that you espouse.
Okay, so maybe I would say if I walked up to the corner of my street, there was a corner store, and I said to the store owner, and there's quite a number of the city employees that live in the neighborhood in Ward 35. So if I went up and I said, we don't have the money to pay you a little bit more for the quart of milk or a little bit more for your bread, we're going to go to Walmart because it's cheaper there. What would you think they'd say? We help our wages give members money to spend. Our members work hard. We have professionals. We have all sorts in our local. Some of our members could be working in the private sector for more. And you and everyone around here know that. We also spend money. We keep that corner store in business.
Thank you. Councillor Carroll.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hey, Ann. I didn't take us here and you didn't take us here, but now that we're here, did any other public sector union, firefighters, cops, transit workers, provincial workers, OPSU, whoever you want to name that starts with an O or a T, did anyone else take 1.75%?
No.
I didn't think so. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Davis.
Yes, and was it and is your 2012 increase of 1.75% far lower than every other bargaining unit here?
2012?
Sorry, 11.
Yes.
And are you aware the cost of inflation is 2.9%?
Yes.
So the wage rates, unfortunately, are less than the actual cost of inflation in the City of Toronto.
Yes.
Thank you.
Right. Councillor Perks.
So if I heard your answers to Councillor Davis's questions correctly, your members received 1.15% less than the rate of inflation for your increase in 11. Is that correct?
Yes.
So I guess maybe then I could re-ask Councillor Matlow's question. Do you think that the workers of this city have already contributed to helping to balance our books?
Yes. And absolutely. And I will say, and I will say on behalf of my members, many who are in the room today, that, and I'll start by saying, I greatly respect Toronto Police. My membership does. Each and every one of my members are paid according to the value of their work. There is a compensation system in place. So we have our lowest worker, we have our highest, who I believe is the senior planner. You're paid according to your responsibility, your accountability. It's in your base rate. Toronto Police are also paid in their base rate. They are started higher because of the accountability, responsibility, and the danger in their job. Why are they treated differently than my members? Why? We all work to make this a great city. So there should not be a double standard for my members and police. We all have jobs and we all contribute, and I will say once again, my members greatly respect and value the role that Toronto Police play.
Thank you. Okay, Councillor Bernardi. Oh, I'm sorry, going in outside. Sorry, Councillor Vaughan and then Councillor Wontan after that.
We've heard the phrase jobs for life used recently. How are there jobs for life if there are 2,300 layoffs happening?
Well, here's probably one of the myths that's been perpetrated. I've had permanent members laid off. I have a permanent older woman who was injured looking after the residents in the homes for the aged. Over 20 years service. She's laid off. That's how we value people that look after our
But
seniors.
how could that happen if people are guaranteed jobs for life?
That we are not guaranteed jobs for life. We have had permanent members laid off. We have in Local 79 every week members laid off.
The last collective agreement, what happened to the sick banks, the sick bank days?
What happened?
Did you retain that right, or has it changed?
There's a two-tier system. There is some members kept the 18 days per year. New employees and those that chose went to the IIP plan.
New employees are not eligible.
Correct.
Would you consider that a concession or a take from the city?
Would I consider, I think that this is better for both in some aspects.
But did you make the concession or did the city make the concession?
I don't know if I would call it a concession because certainly for some members it's better. So the ones that retain their plans, it's not I don't consider it a concession.
That was the last question. Thank you. Councillor Wontan.
Yes, thank you very much. As a new councillor coming into City Hall, it's been described to me numerous times by workers, past and present city workers, that the morale of city workers is the lowest it's ever been historically. Is this true?
Yes, absolutely.
And what happens when worker morale is under attack?
What happens is members get sick, they're under stress, their members, stress causes illness. So absenteeism goes up, productivity goes down because they're always worried. And I'm not going to say that productivity with my members have, but if someone's always worried, it does not provide a good atmosphere.
And if we call city workers garbage or we demean city workers, that obviously hurts the morale of workers across our city, right?
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen the atmosphere, and it will be 36 years that I've been here. I have never, ever seen City of Toronto employees treated with so little respect.
Thank you.
That's great. Thank you. Councillor Fletcher and then Councillor McConnell.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask you about the contracting out of cleaners in a few instances.
Yes.
In particular, just from the point of view for the police, that when in bringing contract cleaners in, is there any guarantee then, I'm assuming 79 members, there would be certain requirements around confidentiality and the handling of materials, in the handling of files or cleaning in those areas or in the jail cells, that there would be a requirement there to meet a certain level and standard because of the nature of the work. Do you think that can ever be replaced by a contract cleaning firm in that relationship?
Well, I think it's very difficult, and from what I understand, turnover in the companies that are providing contract work in cleaning is great. There's no consistency. The officers never know who's cleaning the stations. And those cleaners who are making barely minimum wage form no attachment because they're looking always constantly looking for an employer who pays a little bit more.
Thank you. Councillor McConnell.
Sorry, I only get one question?
Has a minute. I even let you go longer than a minute. Just because it was you.
I'm sure.
Councillor McConnell?
Talk fast. I just wondered if, back on cleaners, isn't it not true that many of the cleaning companies, like the garbage pickup companies, are unionizing their staff?
Yes, there has been an effort to do so.
That's right. And is it not true that most of the contract negotiations are to bring them up to the standards of the cleaners that we're putting out the door?
Yes, that's always the goal.
And so in the unionized environment, is it also not true that if you are out to kick the union in the face or kick out union members or break the union or any of those words, that it might be a bit of a wake-up call when you contract in, as we've done with contract out, as we've done with garbage, and then you're still faced with not CUPE but another union?
Yes, because we saw what's happened in York Region, and the myth that contract employers providing services don't go on strike has been totally busted.
Exactly.
7-week strike.
Exactly. So is it not true that the cleaners that we have under your union are actually long-serving members of this civil service, public service, and that at the end of the day we will save almost no money because cleaners everywhere are waking up and realizing that they're being underpaid, undervalued, and underbenefited.
Last
Well,
question.
I would think that the goal, if that there is the profit margin, and then obviously the workers are always aspiring to make more than minimum wage.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Going inside committee, Councillor?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. Thanks, Anne. And I know you live around the corner from me, so you do pay your vehicle registration tax, or you did.
Yes, and I pay my property tax.
And property taxes, yes.
Thank you.
And
I love Toronto.
I know you live in Scarborough.
Yes.
Yeah. So I know we've talked, and I've always had an open door and really believe that we should be working together with the unions and try to work something out. And I know you can't publicly discuss, and I'm not asking you to discuss that, but you did have some creative ideas on duplications that you saw. Can you speak about that?
Yes, and I was kind of shocked when I saw, I think it was Toronto Sun, that Councillor Del Grande, the budget chief, was quoted that he met with the unions, but nothing came out of it. Well, I think I made some suggestions. I know I did. And I thought they could save hundreds of millions of dollars. The first one I said was bring Toronto community housing back in, TTC, police, library. You have a duplicate senior management. Why do you need 2 CEOs, 2 auditors, 2 treasurers, 2 separate human resources, labor relations, purchasing? I also said that, reminded you that in former City of Toronto, we delayered management. And I don't want to see anyone go out the door. They all have families. But layers of management now has grown. In former city, we were down to, we had the director, the manager, and the worker, frontline worker.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah,
Any other inside committee questions? I just have one question. You were just saying you wanted to bring all the service agencies inside.
Yes.
That would really boost your union, would it not?
They're already my members. Not
No,
them.
no, police association. I'm talking
they
the
would not
police.
be my members. Toronto Community Housing is already my members.
No, I understand that. I'm just saying you were saying bring in the police, all the administration you were saying?
It's not. I
No,
don't.
I'm just asking a question.
And maybe this local is big enough that we're not out there trying to raid others.
Okay.
We're not. I
guess
don't
the
need to
next-
do that. We already have Toronto Community Housing. Those are my members.
Okay.
You bring them back in. I was always a City of Toronto member. There was always Metro Housing. They always belonged to the city after amalgamation. Why do you need a separate labor relations and that? It's duplicate.
I appreciate that. And you were saying about cleaners. In your perspective, I guess you're only a good cleaner if you're a unionized cleaner?
No.
That's
Did
kind of what you were saying.
No, I didn't say that. I said they are always looking for the next job. So I'd ask you to listen. I never said because you're not unionized, you don't clean well.
You don't do the
They're
job
always
as well.
looking to try to find the next higher paying job. If you're making minimum wage, 50 cents more an hour is a lot to you.
Thank you very much. Oh, I'm sorry. Budget Chief?
Thank you. You are aware that the papers don't always report everything, and I do acknowledge that you did provide, actually you were one of the very few, was yourself and the Library Union that provided some suggestions to me. But saying that, you do acknowledge that there were overtures made to talk to the unions with respect to suggestions that they wanted to bring forward, right?
Yeah, and I met you.
Okay, because it made it sound like nobody met with me, so.
No, I said,
No, not you, but.
No,
Yeah.
other speakers
All right,
said that.
Thank you.
One more
On a
question.
point of order, yeah, sorry, thank you, Mr. Chair, through you, and I want to thank you for your services, as I've been hearing, and that this is your last deputation, I believe.
no,
Or
I'm
you're
president
around.
till the end of the year. I am. I'm not leaving.
A couple more weeks, but
And I have not given the City of Toronto my resignation.
okay, well then, thank you for your services.
I do have a job, I'm told. I used to do City of Toronto budgets when you let union people do it.
Yeah, well, with all sincerity, I do want to thank you for your service. I really do. You've worked hard for your members, and again, I want to thank you very much for your service.
And I worked hard for City of Toronto.
Absolutely you do, and thank you.